Welcome to the virtual Clayton County COVID-19 Housing Relief Information Webinar. I am Valerie Fuller, the Communications Administrator for the Clayton County Board of Commissioners, Office of Communications. Thank you for tuning in. This information session is designed to help individuals understand available funding sources who have been affected by COVID-19, the application process, other resources, and to answer questions. So again, thank you for joining us this morning. We know that there are a lot of people out there who have questions, who have been calling the various offices throughout Clayton County and trying to get more information about how they can get assistance. So this morning, I want to start with our four panelists. With that, the panelists will introduce themselves and we'll begin questions immediately afterwards.
I'm Debbie Anglin, CEO and co-founder of Hearts to Nourish Hope, doing some housing assistance and support here in Clayton County. Thank you.
Good morning. I am Chief Magistrate Judge Keisha Wright Hill. I am the Chief Judge of Magistrate Court, and Magistrate Court is the court that handles all of the evictions in Clayton County.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Willoughby. I am the director of the Clayton Housing Legal Resource Center, which is a project of the Atlanta Legal Aid Society. We provide civil legal assistance to people facing eviction and also facing a variety of other civil legal problems.
And good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Ejike. I am the Clayton County Community Development Department Director. Thank you.
So thank you to our panelists for taking time out to join us this morning. We have a lot of good information for you, and we hope that we will be able to answer all of your questions. I do want to remind you as we get started with this webinar that the frequently asked questions section at relief.claytoncountyga.gov will be available in case you miss something or you're not able to stay with us for the entire webinar. So with that, I want to begin and start with the questions. The first question is, who's eligible to receive assistance under the respective program?
There are a number of programs in the county. This response is more tied to HUD, the Housing and Urban Development Grant. HUD eligibility is based on income and family size as established by the federal government. So we do have a table that is used to tell you exactly what those family size and income levels are. Once you fit into that parameter, then you can be assisted.
Is there an age limit to qualify for the relief program?
You have to be at least 18 years of old or older to apply for housing assistance.
And Mr. Ejike mentioned that there was an income limit to qualify. Do you have those numbers, or is there a place that we can go to share those numbers for the respective
I have those numbers.
applicants?
It's eight categories of those numbers that for more details you can go on the website, to our website, to see those numbers. But just for example, it's established that you have to be 80% low to moderate income, which translates into, if you make $46,350 by yourself, then you can qualify. I'm just giving you the top level of it because it's a table that requires more attention. But for example, if you are a family of 4 and you are making $66,000, $150,000, then you qualify. Like I said, there are 8 categories and 3 levels that you can qualify on. You can qualify on 80%, 50%, and 30%. So those are the tables that will guide you to be able to see where you're falling into for the respective qualifications.
Thank you, Mr. Ejike. Again, that website is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. Now, a lot of people have been asking the question, how can these funds be spent? It can't just be spent on anything. Specifically, a question came in, can the funds be used to do home renovations, gutters, pipe repairs, kitchen, or bath upgrades?
For the COVID funds, it's only limited to utilities, rental, and mortgage assistance. We have different funding source to deal with home repairs, both emergency repairs and regular home repairs. But the different kind of, there are limitations based on when the county received the COVID fund. Some of the funds outline all that you can do, but based on what we currently have right now, it's for utility relief, rental assistance, and mortgage assistance.
Let's talk about the deadline to apply. Is there a deadline to apply? I know there are different funding sources or amounts of money that we've gotten over the course of the last year since COVID struck, but is there a deadline to apply for relief?
Currently, right now, most of the funding that's out there is ending December 31st of 2021. So as long as you're working on the application, we have until then to spend the money, but if the money runs out before then, which is a possibility, then that would be another thing to look at, so.
With the COVID relief funding, is the applicant actually required to live in Clayton County?
Yes.
Yes.
And if approved, will the money be paid directly to the tenant, to the landlord, or to another organization or source? Who will the funding actually be paid to?
All funding will be paid to the landlord or the utility companies directly. There won't be funding going out to the individual applicant.
So we understand that the county has multiple funding sources for COVID relief. How do we know which of the funding sources to apply for? If I'm an applicant actually applying, and how many sources of funding can I apply for as an applicant?
With the new funding being released, or at least we know that it's coming, the county is working on using a one entry point to be able to decide what buckets of money the citizens are actually qualified for. So the county is working on centralizing the entry point for the applications.
Is there, we talked about the website, relief.claytoncountyga.com. We really want to guide people to that website because that's where you're gonna find the information. I know that some people are asking specifically for a phone number. Is there a general phone number that can be given out or shared for people to contact in reference to relief?
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. The website really that will guide folks to the county is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. That's the website. The phone number, it's what we are trying to have, one phone number for the COVID relief fund. So you will be able to see this phone number on that website.
In sticking with the application process, talk to us about how long it takes for someone to know if he or she is actually approved for funding or assistance.
Currently, it varies. If you are seeking assistance from one of our sub-recipients, which are the nonprofits, I will let Ms. England address that. But if you're applying directly to HUD in the county, it takes anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks to know whether you have been approved for assistance or not. That is a function of the number of applications we have received in excess of 3,000. as of date.
And are there any specific requirements for a recipient? Once they're notified about the assistance that they are approved for or that they qualify for, are there any requirements on behalf of the person that's receiving assistance?
Other than, and Ms. England can jump in on this, other than the required support documents to show that they are meeting federal regulations or they are meeting any of the funding regulations, because there are requirements that you have to show to prove that the assistance you're seeking is based on the after effects of the COVID pandemic. Outside of that, there are not, all requirements is just to prove that the applicant is actually affected as a result of COVID.
And for the nonprofits, most nonprofits are taking between 2 and 4 weeks to close out, to finish that case and get the checks out to the landlords and the utilities. One of the things that's key that we've seen is that people fill out an initial application, may answer questions, but it can't be processed until certain documents are received, like Mr. Ezekiel was stating, and certain documents are signed and reviewed by the client. So we ask you to please follow those rules, follow those steps that are outlined, and that way we can process as quickly as possible. But without those certain documents, without proof of these certain things, without ID and those kind of things that we need to get you qualified, it takes much longer to do that. So please work with the website, work with the case managers that you'll be assigned, and get that information to us. And that's been one of the biggest holdups we have seen, is that people have not provided us with the right documents and information to get them qualified so we can quickly go ahead and process their payments.
So first and foremost, if you need assistance, go to relief.claytoncountyga.gov. Ensure that you complete the application and upload the required documentation that's required, and wait to hear an answer. That could take approximately 2 to 3 weeks or more in reference to funding or assistance. So thank you so much. So we also have, again, Judge Keisha Wright-Hill, our Chief Magistrate Judge, and Ms. Erin Willoughby, our Director for Clayton Housing Legal Resource at Atlanta Legal Aid Society Incorporated. So can the apartment or mortgage company landlords or owners evict a family and or individual if they have initiated a relief process?
Well, first and foremost, the thing to know is your landlord cannot simply come and set you out. There is a legal process that has to be gone through called the eviction or dispossessory process that begins when a dispossessory warrant is filed in the magistrate court. How long that process takes once it's filed in the magistrate court is something that Judge Wright-Hill can speak on, but the apartment or mortgage company can file that process, can initiate that process even if you have started the relief process, and they can continue with that process even if you are in the process of applying for relief. It's not until the money is actually paid to the landlord and the landlord agrees to dismiss the eviction case that the eviction case goes away. So I think the takeaway from that is apply sooner rather than later for that assistance.
So with that, I'll toss over to Judge Wright-Hill and just ask the question to talk about the dispossessory process and or eviction process as it relates to the courts.
Thank you. Yes, we clearly have a backlog on dispossessories due to the pandemic. What our staff is doing is we have went through and are still going through each and every dispossessory action. Any actions where there is a filed CDC declaration, we are putting to the side, and we are not proceeding with an eviction, the eviction proceedings pursuant to the CDC. Also, we are looking at all of the answers. Any answers where there is COVID-related reasons as to why the tenant has not been able to pay their rent, we are putting to the side. Both of those piles of files we are giving to case managers that are working with nonprofits to see if we are able to get the landlords monies paid to them minus any late fees or attorney's fees or filing fees, and see if a settlement can be worked out. The case managers are working on that, and actually as of today, they are cutting checks to the landlords. Once the case managers are able to negotiate a settlement amount with the landlord, we have a settlement agreement. The landlord understands they're not able to come back after the tenant for the difference. The payment of the settlement amount will, in essence, give the tenant a zero balance. And once both parties come in to sign off, the landlord receives their check, then the magistrate court, I will sign off on a dismissal of the eviction. So the eviction case will no longer be open, it'll be closed, and both parties will receive a dismissal. So the biggest issue that we are having is as far as trying to locate if they have the CDC declarations, because many tenants have stated that they have given them to the landlord, but we don't have copies of them. So if I could say anything, it would be, one, if you have in fact given a CDC declaration to your landlord, file a copy with the court so that we're aware of that. Second, if you have not been able to pay your rent, make sure that you state that in your answer, and always remember to file an answer on time. Your answer is due within 7 days of being served. If it's not filed within that amount of time, a late answer is the same as no answer. So make sure you're doing all those things. But the people that do those, file the CDC declarations as well as reference COVID-related issues, they will be given priority from the magistrate court as far as funds.
So, question, how long will it be until rental assistance, if the landlord is filing for eviction on March 31st? Basically, we're hearing that it's hard for people to get through, to even get appointments and to get help. So what can we share with our residents who may need relief or may need assistance?
Well, from a legal standpoint, if the landlord files the eviction on March 31st, which is currently when the CDC declaration is set to expire, if the landlord files on March 31st, the next step is the tenant has to be served, which takes a few days. The tenant then has 7 calendar days in which to file an answer to that eviction. My recommendation would be to go ahead and file an answer to the eviction, even if you are in the process of seeking rental relief. I can't speak to how long it's going to take for that rental relief to actually come through. But if you don't follow the court process, if you don't file your answer, then the court doesn't know that you're working with the landlord. The court doesn't know you've applied for funds. And so the court will simply process that eviction. If no answer is filed, then the landlord is entitled to what's called a writ of possession on day number 8. And that's what allows them to schedule the actual eviction with the marshal. So certainly file your answer, go through the steps of the process, so that you can get yourself as much time as possible in order to complete the rental relief application and get all those documents in that you need to get in.
So to help our residents and to help save time and to make sure that not only are they informed in case they're not on this webinar, and remember, just reminding people that there is a frequently asked questions section that you can go to, and this webinar will also be available for replay and sharing once complete. In reference to people who need assistance and relief, specifically from the courts, what's the setup like at the courthouse? Should they show up at the courthouse? Because I know that some people are showing up at different offices and different locations. What can we tell residents, or how should we direct them?
Okay, number one, do not show up at the courthouse. We have not opened up the courthouse as far as people that open up to the public. The only people that are able to be in the courthouse at this time is staff and employees. Which, if you're looking for the CDC declaration, we have that on the Clayton County Magistrate website. So you can download it and e-file it with the court. I believe if the initial proceeding was commenced via e-file, then you can do your answer that way. But if not, then you still can file your answer. You can drop it off at the courthouse. You just want to make sure it's done in a timely manner. I will say this, we are proceeding with evictions where there is no CDC declaration. And so I can't give a time frame as to when we are going to get to your case, but as of now, as long as the order is in place to halt proceeding with evictions, if a CDC declaration has been filed, we won't be proceeding with those cases. We are working on the cases where there is no declaration.
And again, that website to apply for relief is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. So another question, do residents or people needing assistance need to complete a separate application for something like utility assistance? Are there various applications, or how do they proceed to do so?
They need to only use one application only and state what the relief they are seeking on that one application. And so that based on that one application, we will evaluate if they're eligible and go in sequence in terms of what the relief they are seeking for. It will be, this relief, it's being handled in such a way that we are trying to make sure that as many people as possible get something. So use one application only. We will evaluate based on what is on the application and grant the reliefs that you're seeking as much as can be granted.
And it's very important when you do fill out the application that from the very beginning, if you're seeking rental assistance and utility assistance, to put that on the application and then to upload all the necessary documents so it can be processed. A lot of times we get people who apply for rent, we go through the whole process, get them approved for rent, and they go, oh yeah, well, where's my my utility assistance? So please make sure you're sharing that information and getting it from the very beginning so we can get everything processed as quickly and efficiently as possible.
So once the application is complete, I'm a resident, I've completed the application, I'm waiting to hear back, and I actually receive word that I am eligible or that I do qualify. Is there a limit on financial rental assistance or any type of assistance that's available to the residents?
Yes, I kind of alluded to that fact earlier. Approximately 3 months, it's what we use as our limit to pay arrears or back payments. And it also depends on the individual's circumstances. So we are looking at maximizing this fund as it's being used. So we are looking at 3 months limit as to what we can really handle. And part of the reason is that if we go beyond 3 months, we're not going to be able to assist as many applicants as possible.
And there's a lot of factors that go into determining that type of assistance and how long. There's a lot of different fundings, and with the emergency rental assistance, there is availability to possibly pay a little more, but that is not the same as the HUD funding that Mr. Ezekiel is talking about. So the best answer is understand that things are determined on a case-by-case basis. There's just so many different pieces and moving parts that account and we have to take track of. So it's hard to give just a blanket information. We don't want people who feel they owe more than 3 months that they can apply, but we also don't want people to feel that they're going to apply and get 12 months of assistance. So work with those individual agencies, work with those individual case managers, and provide them with as much information as you can. Don't try to withhold information. Just be as honest and provide that quickly, and that way you'll get the most that we can give you. Clayton County's doing a really good job and working really hard collaboratively to get this money out to everybody. So we just appreciate you guys helping us with that.
Thank you. So question, if the person is on subsidized housing, may they receive rental assistance?
Yes, they can receive rental assistance, but the assistance will be limited to the portion that is paid by the tenant. So if they owe back pay of rent, and in subsidies, there is a portion that the tenant pays, that is the portion that we can actually give them relief on. Because remember, the subsidy is coming from state or federal government.
I would just add to that, if you are a subsidized housing tenant who has a disagreement, for example, with your housing authority about what your tenant portion of rent is supposed to be, or if you have been accused of having a back payment that's owed to the housing authority or something like that, those are questions you can certainly call legal aid about, because that may be something that we would be able to assist with, not in providing financial assistance, but in trying to sort out the legal tangle that you found yourself in that situation.
Can a landlord apply on behalf of the tenant for assistance?
Yes, it's something that we started doing lately to expedite the process. Part of the reason is sometimes the tenant start the process, and when it gets for the landlord to engage the county on the process of paying, we have about 2 occasions where the landlord was reluctant in filling out the process to get the money to them. So now we are allowing landlords, with the consent of the tenant, to apply. It puts the landlord in the middle of the process, and hopefully they will know that the tenant is doing their best to get assistance. So the answer is yes.
And most of the nonprofits out there are reaching out to the landlord because we have to have their cooperation as well. So that's a key factor, and it works quicker if the landlord's on board and can provide us with certain documents and, abating certain fees and those kind of things.
So back to this question, we touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking to Judge Hill and to Ms. Willoughby, but what happens if a landlord or homeowner or property owner violates the eviction law, goes to a tenant and actually evicts them and puts them out prior to this moratorium being lifted?
Well, that's a very good question. If a landlord simply shows up at your home, for example, and says, you have to leave right now, I'm changing the locks, what we recommend is that you remain calm and ask the landlord to leave. If the landlord refuses to leave, you can actually call the police and report them as trespassing, because that home is your home unless and until a judge tells you it is not your home anymore. If the landlord has already changed the locks, has already set you out, then, for example, you may have a legal claim against that landlord for what's called illegal eviction or trespass, or even conversion of property, which is where they take your belongings. As far as going through the eviction process in violation of the CDC moratorium, for example, filing an eviction even though you've submitted a CDC moratorium declaration to your landlord or something like that, there are criminal penalties that apply to that, and that's going to be up to the Department of Justice to decide how they're going to prosecute those.
And then the other portion of that question is in reference to abandonment. What if the tenant has abandoned the home and then tries to come back and claim possession of the home under the moratorium?
If the tenant has genuinely abandoned the home, is completely gone, then the landlord is within their rights to retake that property. I would say that, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. I would say that better practice would be to consult with an attorney who advises landlords, which is not something that we do at Legal Aid. But if the tenant has genuinely abandoned the property, is completely gone, then the landlord would be within their rights to retake that property.
If there's a resident that's staying in something such as an extended stay hotel and need assistance, are they eligible to apply?
Yes, they are.
There was an application that many people have filled out for rental assistance through Clayton County prior to the release of this particular federal funding for rental assistance through the December 2020 stimulus bill. When will those applications be processed, or will they be processed now that there's federal funding or additional federal funding, or are they separate pots of money and guidelines?
If you don't mind, let me go back a little bit to the extended stay. Yes, they are eligible, but when they apply to the county, we'll have to refer them to an agency funded through Housing and Urban Development for assistance. And that's how we handle folks in extended stay who are applying. When they get to the county, we'll send them to agencies that we fund that will be able to address those needs. And your second question was?
The second question was in reference to funding, separate pots of money for funding. There's an application that many residents may have filled out for rental assistance through Clayton County prior to the release of this federal funding for rental assistance through the December 2020 stimulus bill. And the question was, when will those applications be processed, or those people who are eligible be contacted?
We have like at about a month or so backlog in processing. What we're doing right now is to triage those applications to determine eligibility. On those cycle of funding, I want everybody to understand, each time money is released, it's tied to that cycle of funding. Please do not apply twice, because what we're doing is if you meet the requirements of the new funding, then we'll go to you. But the short answer is we are about 4 to 5 weeks out because of just the number of applications we received in a space of 2 weeks. We are currently in excess of 3,000 applications and counting.
And that doesn't include all the nonprofits that again have backlogs. So I know our agency and most of the agencies that I've talked to are kind of on that same page of trying to process everything we have in that's already been applied for. And so we're looking at that 4 to 5 weeks to have everybody that's applied given an answer, given their funds if they qualify, and then we can begin taking new applications.
So with the emergency rental assistance supposedly coming through for Clayton County, does it also cover not only the utilities current, past, and future? How much of the utilities are included? I believe you may have spoken to this, Mr. Ejike, a few minutes earlier about limitations in reference to 3 months worth of assistance, but will it pay for past, present, and potentially future utilities, or just one utility bill?
The actual limitations of the funding that is coming, I understand it's only for rental only, that it cannot be used for anything else.
No, it can.
Just rental. So with that, if we have a utility from the past applications, we can handle it. But it's not for utility. No, I'm sorry. If we have anything for rental that's already on our books and qualifies, we can handle it. But just for folks to know, the new money is not designed to help in utilities and mortgage, just rental.
That, Mr. Ezekiel, there was some new federal guidelines that just came down Friday that we were made aware of, and they did explain that we can use that emergency rental assistance funding for some utilities. So it is limited, and like I said, it was just updated late Friday that we were given this information. So there will be some funding. It can be used for some past due. It can be used for current, and if there's enough and if you qualify and are getting stable and following kind of the guidelines of the program, there is a possibility that you could get some in the future. But there's also a cap, and there's just so many moving pieces, so we cannot give out a blanket answer of you can get 3 months and 12 months past due and all of those kind of things. But we will be working hard to get everybody as much help as we can get. So work with those case managers, supply all the documents, and we will all do our best.
And Ms. Fuller, if someone had, just to add on to what Ms. England is saying, the nuances of approving it, does the help actually get them out of the arrears? Those are the kind of discussions that will go place. If someone owes 6 months, does paying 3 months help, or are they still in arrears? There is a legal angle maybe to it that maybe the panelists will address, so that we don't know that as of this time. But in terms of utility, the county has gotten good in handling utilities. What we have done with the utilities is, once we determine that we can pay for utilities, we have an arrangement with the utility companies in Clayton County. Once we give them a pledge that someone has qualified, while we're getting through the later part of the process, they will go ahead and turn on the service for them. So that's one arrangement that we have with utility companies in the county. So that is going that's very well. But some of the things that Debbie is discussing about too many moving parts, it's maybe we address it today. If someone owes 6 months and we're able to pay 3, what happens to that person? We're struggling with that to make sure that we're not paying that money and they still have to be evicted because they still owe something on their rent or mortgage or whatever it is.
And I'm glad you just mentioned that piece, because we've been talking a lot about rent specifically. Does it cover mortgages too? Does this COVID relief program also cover mortgages?
Well, with the current funding that we have, Debbie kind of announced there was a release about the limitations of the funding that came late Friday. I will kind of refrain from mentioning what we have now received, but based on the funds that is available to us at this time, yet it covers mortgage.
But the emergency rental assistance funding that's coming down is only earmarked to pay for rent. So mortgage will not be covered, or any utilities for mortgage owners or homeowners. But because we're all working together here and trying to get everybody help, the HUD and CDBG money that is available for the mortgage companies, we're going to try to maneuver that and get the best bang for our buck and help as many people as we can. But the emergency rental assistance is just for renters and not mortgage holders.
Right. And we also encourage everyone who does have a mortgage to please work and contact your mortgage companies also. So can a single homeless person apply for COVID relief funding or assistance?
Yes, they can apply for assistance. It is a little bit more limited, and certain things that we can do and certain agencies that can help the homeless people. But there's also, one of the things is there's a lot of different funding and different agencies that have different funding. So we would encourage you to go ahead and apply, and then if HUD doesn't have the money, if the ERA program doesn't have the money, we will attempt to get you to the right place that can help you.
We do have a program in HUD called the Emergency Solutions Grant, ESG. If if a homeless person apply or there's an issue, we will refer them to the agencies that will fund to address those issues. Agencies that will be able to address them and do what Ms. England is discussing. So if someone is homeless, yeah, they can apply, but based on the guidelines of the COVID, we will direct them, we will try to use the ESG fund to address that.
So with that, we have approximately 15 more minutes left in the webinar. For those of you that may have joined us late, the website to apply for COVID relief assistance is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. So with that, I would like to have our panelists offer closing remarks, if you will. All that we want to know, because I'm sure there's some things that we may not have been able to answer or cover in the questions, but we do need to share with the residents. And so I will start with Judge Keisha Whitehill.
Thank you. My closing remarks are, if you have an eviction that has been filed against you, one, file your answer timely within 7 days of being served. If you have COVID-related issues as to why you could not pay your rent, then please put that in your answer, and you can receive or obtain a CDC declaration on the Clayton County website that needs to be given to the landlord, as well as filed with the court, so that we can have documentation of that. And I would just say lastly, the nonprofits that are working with us, they have run into the problem of people not believing that this is real and thinking that it's a scam. And as far as Clayton County is concerned and the Clayton County Magistrate Court, we all understand the impact that this national pandemic has had on our residents. So if you get a call, feel free to call back, but it is real. And if you have any concerns or questions, because I do understand that there are some people that take advantage of people in unfortunate situations. If you are questioning, you can contact the court, but they're probably contacting you because they're trying to offer you assistance, whether you be a landlord or a tenant.
And we'll go next to Ms. Erin Willoughby, Director, Atlanta Legal Aid Society Incorporated.
Well, I'm the director of the Clayton Housing Legal Resource Center, not the entire organization. I would just say to have patience with this process. There are, as has been stated, a lot of moving parts to the process. You may find that you get referred from one agency to another because of different pots of money or things like that, and just be patient with that and comply with the application process as you are asked to. The money is out there, it is available. There are just some steps that you have to go through to get it. As far as legal aid's role in this process, as I said, we provide civil legal assistance to people with regard to their basic needs. We don't provide direct financial assistance, but if you have a legal dispute about your rent, or you have a counterclaim that you want to assert, or you simply don't believe that your landlord or your housing authority is within their rights to evict you, that would be the time to call us. You can call us on a Monday, Tuesday, or Thursday from 9 to 11 a.m. and the telephone number is 404-669-0233.
Thank you. Ms. Deborah Anglin, Chief Executive Officer for Hearts to Nourish Hope.
Thank you. Again, we're all kind of saying the same thing. We have to be patient. We know we're all going through this together, so please be patient. Follow the process and trust in the process. So be honest. When you withhold information, that causes a lot of problem. When you don't supply the right information that we're needing, and then you're upset because we can't get you approved, it's because we don't have the information to make a good decision. Also, make sure that you're working with those case managers, that you're taking advantage of other programs, other trainings, other options, the food pantries that are around here, different financial type classes and stuff that will help support you. in doing this. Know that Clayton County is working together. You see this great panel here today that we have put all the best people together to get the best help we can for as many people here in Clayton County. So I just encourage you to work with us and support us in helping you. Thank you.
And last but certainly not least, our Director Patrick Ejike for Clayton County Community Development.
Yes, thank you again for allowing us to be part of this panel to bring you some information and hopefully have answered some of your questions. I would like to say that we hear you and we see you. Clayton County Board of Commissioners are working very hard. They have charged us to make sure that anyone who seeks relief, if possible, if approved, gets it in an expedited way. So the county is working for you. It's not an easy task. Your concerns are being documented, and in some ways, we pay attention to your concerns. The county government collectively tweak the process if what we are hearing allows us to do the process at the same faster, at the same time abide by the federal government rules, because the disbursement of funds still has a backside to it that we have to prove every single cent that was disbursed. So just know that Clayton County Board of Commissioners and everyone in it that is charged to make sure we get the relief to you, we are all working very hard to get you the relief. We know what you're going with. Some of us know what you're going through. We have an idea what you're going through, but have patience with us. And like all the panelists have spoken, it starts with the completeness of your application. That's where it starts. And please go to relief.claytoncountyga.gov. That's where it starts. And thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ejike. And so I will close with one question I do want to ask. We know that the website is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. Is that site open and ready for applicants to apply today, or when will it be open for applicants?
I will say it will be open, not speaking for the IT director. It should be open hopefully by Friday.
So again, that website is relief.claytoncountyga.gov. Thank you for joining us for our Clayton County COVID-19 Housing Relief Information webinar. On behalf of our Clayton County Board of Commissioners, please know that they are committed. They are definitely committed to making sure that you have access to these resources and that you have accurate information about the resources and that the funds and the assistance is dispersed as quickly as possible. And we say that too on behalf of our not just our Clayton County Board of Commissioners, but our Chief Operations Officer, Chief Dietrich Stanford also, as well as all of the various departments that make up Clayton County and our residents, because we are Clayton Connected. So once again, thank you everyone who joined us for the COVID-19 Housing Relief Information webinar here in Clayton County, where the world lands and opportunities take off. Enjoy the rest of your day.